Hi, this is Carol Graham with Praying for Miracles with Carol. I have kind of a strange question for you today, but one that carries a real strong message. And this is the question. If you woke up in the middle of the night and someone was standing, a person was standing over your bed with what appeared to be full intent to harm you, how would you respond? So I asked that question to many of my friends, my Christian friends and my non Christian friends. And my non Christian friends basically all said the same thing. They would be in the fight mode, they'd be ready to take on whatever and pull the weapon that they may have had beside their bed or any number of things. My Christian friends, a lot of them said the same thing, that they would hide under the covers, or they would scream for help, or they would start to fight, etc. Well, we never really know, do we, how we are going to respond in a situation when we're put in that particular situation. Well, 2 weeks ago, when my husband and I returned home after being away for a week, this happened to me. It was a Friday night. We went to bed about 10:30. And at 12:30 at night, I don't know what woke me up. I don't know if it was the lights that came on outside my screen door, that the patio door to my bedroom, or if it was the sound of that opening or what. But I woke up, and standing there was a woman, and she had her hands like this, like she was pushing against something. And the many things happened in that split second. First of all, and one of the most important, is I had zero fear. It was absolutely the absence, completely and totally, of fear. I wasn't ready to fight. I was not in a fight mode. Nothing. No fear. All I said was, "You cannot touch me." And I know that those words came from within my spirit. The Spirit of God dwelling in me, that gives me authority against anyone or anything that would try to hurt me. Well, this is where it gets exciting. I realized later that this person, this woman that was pushing like that, trying to come towards me, was actually pushing against an unseen barrier. She was trying to come at me, and I didn't have to fight because the battle was already won, and she couldn't touch me. And I knew that in my spirit, even though I didn't realize until later that there was an unseen barrier preventing her from touching me. And so when I said those words, "You cannot touch me," she glanced to the left. Something must have caught her eye. And the look of horror and fear came over her. I could see it because the lights from the outside patio were shining into the bedroom. And when she saw whatever it was that she saw, and I believe it was my guardian angel, she took off. And I can't tell you how fast. I mean, she almost leapt out of that room. She was in total fear. I don't know what she saw, like I said, but whatever she saw, she was in fear that it was going to chase her. Because as she left the patio, she pulled about 150-pound wooden bench behind her to keep whatever it was that was trying to come after her. And I could hear her footsteps running down the driveway, and they were very heavy, like someone who was running extremely fast. And that was it. Now, at that point, my husband wakes up and he said, "Who are you talking to?" And so we sat up for about a half an hour and we talked about it, and many things we realized, and that was one of the biggest, is that we have nothing to fear, that God protects us. And what I learned in this was not only are we not having to fear, but we don't have to fight. When we understand who we are in Christ and that He is there to protect us, we don't have to fight. Now, this is one thing that I want to share also that I believe is a very, very strong message in this video, and that is the people who would automatically believe or think that the enemy had something to do with this. Realize deeply, we live in a wicked world. We live in an area, my husband and I, where there is a lot of drug problems. I don't mean within the vicinity itself, but I mean just in the state. There are people with drug problems. There are people who are wicked. There are people who choose to rob and steal for any number of reasons. And I think that this girl, by the way she looked, was probably a drug addict. But understand that when we constantly refer to things like this and say the enemy tried to get me and he couldn't, or the enemy was attacking me, or any number of things, they are still looking at the source being the enemy. What I am suggesting to you is that we live in an evil world, that we live in a world, whether we are Christians or not, that these things happen. The Bible tells us that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. We live in that type of world. And I do not believe that the enemy had anything in any way, in any shape, or in any form to do with this attempted attack. But because of my standing with God as a Christian and understanding my authority, it didn't go anywhere. Now, the point here to realize, if you've never realized it before, so that you can get out of that fighting mode and realize who you are in Christ, is that when you understand your authority, get this, loud and clear, the enemy knows that you know your authority. Do you see the difference? He's not going to attempt to attack you, per se, because he knows he's going to lose. When we understand that we have won, that the battle is not a battle, that we are victorious, that the enemy can't touch us, he knows that too. Why would he waste his time? And I am not going to give the enemy any credit in any way by saying that this was an attack by him. He looks for recognition. And he's very appreciative when we think we recognize him and he had nothing to do with it. And this is what I hear constantly from many fellow Christians, is the enemy tried, but he couldn't. I say the enemy doesn't necessarily have to do with anything that's happening to us in the natural realm. It's life. It's the world we live in. But when we understand who we are in Christ, the enemy knows we know that. Do you see the major difference in this way of thinking? He knows you know. Therefore, he's not going to waste his time. Thank you for listening to Praying for Miracles with Carol.